You know, back home in Kentucky, we have this saying, sometimes you take your licks and you keep on kicking. And if there has been a project that has taken their licks over the past couple of weeks, it's been Juno. But I think the clouds are parted, and I think they've finally gotten through all of it. In this video, we're going to cover all of the drama of the wild things that have happened. We're going to take a look at how they've handled the bruises and got back up and kept fighting. Some good news in the crypto space around all of them, and I just had to brag on them for a little bit for how much they have done. So we're going to cover all of this and a whole bunch more coming right up. Hey friends, Wes Spencer here. Welcome to my channel. Really glad you've stopped by. I love covering the Cosmos ecosystem. There's a bunch of cryptos that I cover. There's no moon pumping here on this channel. I just cover the things that I have a lot of interest in. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I'm not going to become a full-time YouTuber. I just love covering the world of crypto and the awesome journey that it takes us on. So while you're here, hit like, hit subscribe. It goes a really, really long way for this channel. I know everyone says that, but it really does. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I want to thank you to my sponsor, which is myself. That seemed a little shameless plug there, right? But I do have my very first course on osmosis staking. Now, you Osmo people and you Cosmos people and all of the people that are watching this just because of the whole world of Cosmos, you know probably all about staking. You're like, dude, why do you need a video course on that? Trust me, I've talked to so many people that are like, can you just give me like a soup to nuts, like literally the ELI 5 version of this? And that's what the course is about. So down in the description below, it is there. Share it out with friends, those that think you're crazy and don't understand how you're yield farming tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars a day. Share that video with them. It'll go a really long way. All right, thanks, my sponsor. What a great sponsor Wes is. Man, I should have him sponsor me more often, shouldn't I? Okay, so let's jump into the news. So I wanted to start with this right here. This is the very first piece of drama that came out. This is from Blockworks, and they're talking about Juno Network stakeholders to decide the fate of the whale's millions in crypto. So this is old news, I realize, but I just wanted to start with this because there's a lot of people that watch this channel that they're not always up to date with what's happening. And so basically the Cosmos ecosystem is famous for awesome airdrops. There's lots of great projects that come out. Airdrops are, for the most part, a really great way to get your crypto out there. It's a positive, solid way to get it started, to get growth going, to ramp up and jumpstart your ecosystem. But there's a problem with airdrops that also comes. You see, airdrops are not perfect. And one of the challenges that airdrops have is, how do I actually distribute all of the funds? See, funds distribution is a real challenge in the industry because there's lots of mechanics and mechanisms you can use, and many projects don't like to share like the requirements and stipulations before the airdrop happens so that people don't game the system and do exactly what it is they think they're going to do. But as we found out in this story, it actually was possible to game the system. And there was a very insidious or smart, however you want to say it, user who figured out how to do just that. So we're going to scroll down and look at this right here. So it's been a lot of drama of late. If you don't know Juno, it's a layer 1 blockchain. It's focusing on smart contracts, doing some really, really cool stuff. I've never done a full review, but I need to at some point. And there was a proposal called proposal number 16 to reduce or really almost completely eliminate almost all of their Juno holdings. 98% of it, as you see right here, that came specifically from the airdrop. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't seem fair. Well, one of the problems with this is the way that this user got it. In hindsight, they discovered that there was initially some work done to kind of stop what happened from happening, and it just didn't work. So initially the stake drop was supposed to have what they call a whale cap of 50,000 just to make sure it's fair distribution. In other words, they said, hey, we don't want other people to game the system. So we're going to limit each person to 50,000 Juno max, which I know you're thinking 50,000, I'd love to have my hands on that. But they're like, we're going to limit it to only 50,000 at the most is all you can get as an individual. However, in hindsight, we discovered that nothing could stop a particular user from taking a ton of Atom that they're staking and separate it into multiple wallets, tens, hundreds of different wallets. And unfortunately, the airdrop mechanism doesn't know that one user owns multiple wallets. And guess what happened? all of those funds were airdropped to all of those wallets. In essence, this person got millions of dollars in Juno. Pretty crazy. And so that was discovered, and it set off a firestorm of arguments. What do we do? Do we take that away from him? What do we do about all of this? And there's a lot of quotes that came across in the article I thought were good. Proposals as a whole have flaws to them, but this proposal itself is super complicated. Definitely it was, right? Because it's a hard one to kind of decide, right? People are saying this is black and white and saying, yes, this is obvious answer. And if you voted no, you're saying you're evil, right? And so there definitely was a lot of like infighting and bickering of like, how do we handle this? And what do we do? Do we let the user have all of them? And a lot of people have very strong opinions on it, right? Here's one: people who game airdrops deserve to keep their money. This is from the pseudonymous founder or one of the founders of Osmosis. Here's the deal. I happen to definitely disagree with that, right? The wallet in question currently has about 3.1 million Juno tokens worth 122 million as of Friday that week. Now the price has gone down in Juno of late, and we'll discuss that in a minute. But I actually think that comment is super duper wrong. So basically what they said is like, look, if they gamed the system, they gamed the system. They deserve to keep it. Okay, well, what's going to happen if I game the bank and I find a nice, fun way to game a bank and get a whole bunch of money that the bank did not intend for me to have? I'm going to go to jail. Just because you game something doesn't make it right. However, I also understand that taking funds away from a user is a pretty draconian move, right? It's pretty sweeping. And so I understand both sides of this. I understand definitely why people said, yes, we should take that away. They're gaming the airdrop. That's not right. I understand where some people are like, no, what happened, happened. We're going to let that lie. We're going to let what happened happen. So it's an interesting one, right? And it definitely was sort of a black eye on Juno. Here's the actual vote right here. This is Proposition 16. You can see turnout was 97%, pretty staggering. It actually passed. So it happened. If you look, only 40%, 40.9% were yes. Isn't that crazy? A very, very low turnout. It definitely wasn't a majority. The no's were 33%, the abstains were 21%, and then the no with veto is much smaller, 3.6%, right? So it's interesting to me that it wasn't a majority yes, and yet it still passed. And I think this even points to some of the weaknesses in the voting system of what actually is the difference between no and no with veto. And there's a lot of users that misunderstood abstain. They intended it to mean, I don't want a horse in the race, so don't count my vote, but I am going to cast a vote. And unfortunately, this thing passed, oddly, with 40.9%. And I'm not saying unfortunately because I think it was the wrong decision. My opinion, for what it's worth, which is very little, was it should have passed. But the voting turnout and the mechanism was just certainly not so great. So Juno really took a black eye from this, not because Juno made a huge mistake, but airdrops are tricky. And how do you actually make sure an airdrop works correctly? There's a couple different ways you can do it. One is the way that most Cosmos airdrops work. You figure out your criteria and you build towards that, and it is what it is. And you know that people might be able to airdrop or game it. Now, another way you can do this is the way that Pi Network is doing it. Pi Network is requiring KYC. Know your customer. And the reason they're doing that is because you sort of mine or you check in every day on your phone to get your allotment of Pi. And so it's much easier for you, theoretically, to have a whole bunch of devices running behind the background and game the system that way. So the KYC system that Pi has implemented is a way to say, nope, we're attaching one account to one physical person. And that's it. So if you're mining on 15 machines, sorry, you're only going to get one. That would work, but most people have a lot of aversion towards that. And I don't think that's going to fly in the Cosmos ecosystem. In fact, I know it won't fly. It's just against that culture. And so I guess I'm just saying this. Airdrops are tricky, and we're learning that they can be gamed, and we're learning that maybe we need to find better, more innovative ways around all of this. Certainly needs to happen. Well, if that weren't enough, more things happened. Juno suffered a hack. And unfortunately, this hack wasn't like the Axie Infinity hack that I covered just last week, where $620 million were stolen. It just shoved the blockchain offline. It forced them to go offline. And definitely a pretty bad thing that happened. And the timing of all it was pretty interesting. I'm going to show you a couple things around all this as we get into it. But, you know, I definitely think it was a huge lesson learned. And I think the entire blockchain community was watching Juno to see how are they going to get through this and what's going to be the impact of an event where they literally are shut off for like 1 to 2 days. How do you handle something like that? Imagine if that happened to Ethereum or Bitcoin. What could it do to the entire network? And so I will say, wow, really Juno did a great job in its recovery. But going offline was definitely pretty nasty, right? And they had to get through that. So this article, which I will put a link into the description so you can see it, has a bunch of tweets around it, what's going on with the team and how they eventually got it up and running. But you know what? If you look at the price, it definitely took its licks. If we go back to like a month view, when you take a look at when all this stuff started happening in early March, in fact, let's go to a 3-month view. You can see it really took some, did really well in February. A lot of people would say maybe Juno was overinflated and overhyped. I'm not sure I could say that or not say that, but you can definitely see once that news began around the whale, and then of course way down here towards yesterday, you see, man, the price just completely nosedive. You talk about taking a lick, right? However, as you guys always know, I am a very big believer in looking at charts in different views. Take a look at the 1-day chart. This is actually really incredible. So Juno came back up online. I don't know if I have the link here. Yeah, here it is. So here's when Juno came back online. So this was yesterday, last night at 9:48 p.m. So April 7th at 9:48. If we go back and take a look at the price right here, so let's find 9:48. Right about here is 47. Look what happened to the price. Immediately starts a recovery. And of course, a couple drops, but really, really, really did come back. Now it's dropped down again, right? But it's great to see, like, as soon as that happened, you see volume begin to pick up, you see activity come back in, and it's a great recovery, and huge kudos to Juno for being able to make that happen. So more on the hack itself. What the heck was it? Well, first of all, I will say this is their GitHub page where they, code is committed. It's an open source project. They actually created an incident response piece of their GitHub. You can actually dive in and you can read all of this, of all the things that were happening around it, instructions that they gave for node operators and for validators. They really did a good job covering all of that inside of their GitHub page. And so, it's tough. I can tell you as a cybersecurity person, you put some long, crazy hours when these big things happen. And they did a really good job handling all of this and communicating openly about what was happening. So what exactly did happen? Well, we're not going to go into all the details here, but this is from Asaf Marami, and I'll again put a link to this tweet right here and his whole breakdown. But basically what he said was they used a known bug that was known like literally a few days before to force everything to go down. And so it says the Juno team identified a suspicious contract. They began to debug it. The assumption was that the contract exploited a bug and they were handling breaking the consensus queries. And so this user kind of jumped into it and dove in and found out, yep, this is indeed exactly what had happened. Some really good research that came out of here. So you can definitely dive into this and see. It's beyond, I think, the scope of my audience. Most people are not this technical that want to know all the details, but you can certainly dive into this if you want to see. I will say, and I love this quote right here in the middle. Overall, I'm very impressed how Juno Network are triaging and handling this entire situation. I'm sure they'll come up on top, stronger and united. Love it. That is exactly right. I think they've done a great job of that. And so go ahead and take a peek at this if you want to kind of see how the whole thing happened. But it does look like they discovered this bug. They saw the bug was actually mentioned, I think, in like Proposition 17, and they went and discovered how dangerous it was. Now, we don't know who the bad guys were at this point. We may never know. Fortunately, no funds were stolen. This comes from another user, Jason, that says if you trace the wallet that attacked Juno, you'll find it leads to an Ethereum address. Judging by the comments, it looks like a mixer is also used by numerous scammers and hackers. So who knows? We're not ready to attribute. We may never be able to attribute who the threat actor was, and if they're trying to steal funds or just be malicious and shut the whole thing down. We can only speculate, and so we don't really have answers on all that. We do know that Juno came back live. And here's where I want to stop, is I want to brag on Juno, and I want to brag on the Cosmos project as a whole. I have a lot of friends that worked at Secret, for example, and seeing my friends at Secret jump in and assist and help. In fact, that tweet of how it all happened and the research was done by, to my knowledge, a Secret blockchain engineer. Isn't that awesome? See, here's the thing in crypto. When one project fails and falls apart, let's not seize on them like a bunch of sharks drawn to blood. Instead, let's lift them up and let's say, what can we do to help? See, when one crypto project fails, it hurts the whole industry. We see this happen over and over as regulators jump in with more and more teeth into their desire to regulate. A lot of that is caused by big things that happen, huge problems and errors in smart contracts that lead to hacks. Of course, all the cybercrime that happens with crypto, all this stuff. So we know for a fact we're all in this together. And I think by and large, seeing the Cosmos entire ecosystem for the most part band together and say, how can we help? How can we support? and not just tear someone else down was a really good thing to see happen. And now seeing the clouds part from it and seeing Juno come back to life, I'm very excited. And so huge congrats to you, Juno team, for being able to come back and make it. And also to anyone that participated and helped through, man, a whole month. March is going to be a month that the Juno team will soon forget, I would think. But I think we all got lessons learned out of it. And we have work to do in airdrops, and we have work to do in community support. But seeing everyone band together by and large was a huge, huge thing, and I am so happy to see that. We need more of that in our space. That's all I got for now. If you guys would hit like, hit subscribe, share this with a friend. Thank you guys so very much.